Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Hello and welcome. Well, it's Super Sunday here on Apex Racing TV, and of course the double header that is the Weekend Warriors. Kicking things off, it's the Formula Fords first of all. And where better place to be? The most northern track on the whole of iRacing. A track that, well, many didn't even ask for, many didn't even know about, but it's really cemented itself into the roots of the lower formulas. Of course, this Rudskogen Motor Centre in Norway. Oh, well, I'm sure we're in for an absolutely sprawling evening here today. I'm Tim Cox. We've got John Robertson in the virtual protection trailer, but I'm joined by someone who's nearly as northern as this track. It's Chaz Draycott.
Hello, Tim. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here once again, back on Apex Racing TV, and it's a pleasure to be working alongside you. And yes, you are absolutely right. This circuit is a real treat. Not many people knew about it at all, and to be fair, that's made it such a level playing field in terms of so many leagues, so many championships, and throwing an odd combination of cars like this around a track like this really does open up our eyes to just who knows this car well and who knows how to dial it in for an odd little occasion like this. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they all get on.
Well, I'd then throw it into the mix as well. 40-minute long race. A race distance you don't even... Well, I think the longest version is half of that in the iRacing official. So it's been a real trip into the unknown this season with this brand new car, and it's not like the SRF that we'll see later on this evening here on Apex Racing TV, where there's plenty of history and knowledge of what the tyres do, how to fuel save, etc, etc. This has been a real trip into the unknown and discovery for so many of our drivers. Got qualifying just on the way, as always, open qualifying. We've got around about 9 minutes and change left in that. Yogmani leading the way in provisional pole with Jason Green. They two have been right near the front for so long this season. There's so many big hitters, so many big names joining us. And, well, let's have a bit of a look across to the championship standings and where we stand. First off, we'll kick off things with Spec 1. Let's wait for that to emerge up on the screen. There we go. Jason Green leads the way, but that gap is starting to close. And if we had Friends Arabian for more of the rounds, it would be even closer, and I think even Arabian would be ahead. He's in second with Overstreet in third. Then we've got Renders Ball, Ronenberg, only 1 point behind Ball. In fact, it's Ronenberg in sixth, and then De Garcias, Jacobson, Mayer, and Leandro running at your top 10 into Spec 2, where it's been a bit more of a competitive affair. Really cat amongst pigeons, so many different winners this season. But it's Tom Lorry leading by 55 points over Richard Wallbank. So Roland Wallbank, I always call you Richard, apologies Roland. Gary Walbolt's third, then it's Coffey, Pentikainen, Bennett, Montgomery, Montavini, Griffin and Hansen to round out your top 10 there. Now as for the Masters class, I mean that's pretty just much been Antonio Rice and Jorg Marni. They've really sort of galloped away, but then that win for Stevie Ray earlier on has really brought him back into the fight. And it's incredibly close for that second place between Marnie and Ray, only 5 points separating those two as we head to Norway. Murakami fourth, there's Brewster, Bradshaw, Freck, Cantor, Nelson, and Love to run out our top 10. Well, Charlie Ficari, we'll give you an honourable mention as you're the 11th and last place in the championship for now. Wow, Chaz. I think this could be a really, really interesting one because these cars, they do tend to stick quite well. However, it's the perennial cold tyres that they really suffer with, and there's so many undulations and off-camber corners throughout this track that it could prove to be really tricky for our drivers. Yeah,
definitely. I think that this is going to be a bit of a unique case for this championship, is this sort of circuit, because these cars, as we've seen, they're so exciting in the way that they are all about mechanical grip. They're not about aerodynamics. They're not about any fancy push-to-pass systems or anything over the top. You know, they're very low power. They've not even got wings in any form, really, to be honest with you. So it is all just about mechanical grip. They float around, but they're open wheel at the same time. So you've got that sort of additional movement in the corners. They're not planted like the sort of Scale Electric GT3 cars that you see in other championships. You know, it's always about how you can carry momentum in these sorts of cars. You throw it in, get it sideways, and then deal with the consequences on exit. Interesting that we've got the different classes as well, of course, with having the Masters, the S1s and the S2s as they come up. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the sort of inter-class battles as well, because as you see right now, judged by the colour of the position numbers on the left-hand side of the screen there is a bit of a mix, isn't there, between who ends up where, and people fight each other in different classes.
Oh, they do. I mean, since Jorg Marni came of age, shall we say, and surpassed the age of 55 and migrated into the Masters class, it's really it invigorated that class and given the likes of Antonio Rice someone to fight with, certainly in the SRF series. Obviously, those classes transpire across into the brand new Formula Ford series as well. And I mean, you see the likes of Marni battling out there with Green and Mayer and Arabian Overstreet, who's won races so far this season. And Addison Hoagie, one of the bit of disappointments in qualifying. I mean, just how nip and tuck it is there, 500ths of a second separating Pinarino, Hoagie and Wallbank in total, so 12th through 14th. But yeah, Hoagie was fastest in qualifying, just as Green goes fastest in practice, but really struggling in qualifying as Green goes fastest in quali with a 1:26.6.
Lovely time indeed that is as well. He's over a 10th clear now of Jorg Marni, and then Simon Mayer still in third place, joining Ferenc Arabian on the second row of the grid. It's a very international grid as well, this one. You know, there's a lot of American drivers in there, but we've got a couple of Brazilians, a Swiss driver, Germans, Canadians, Dutch drivers from the UK as well, and even Graham Brownlee as well at the bottom of the pile at the moment, the Scottish driver. He's not put a time on the board, but it's great to see there is such an international grid. I think the only country I didn't mention there that's actually on the grid is Antonio Rice in the Portuguese entry. But still, a fantastic mix of drivers and all these different classes as well. Montgomery is apparently... No, actually, it's Addison Hoagie that is currently the fastest in the S2s at the moment. He's up there in 6th place, but his thing's not gone green, basically. Jorg Marni is obviously the fastest in the Masters. Jason Green fastest overall right now. Whole field at this moment in time, though, is separated by 2.7 seconds, but then it's only 2 seconds and a little bit down to 24th place when you look at Gary Wolbolt. So it's a very, very tough one. I mean, it's not the longest of laps around Rudskogen here, Tim, but even then, these cars make it a minute and a half, which is sort of like Grand Prix length lap compared to most other places.
It certainly does indeed, and well, it's going to be absolutely fascinating to see how the drivers really sort of manage this one. And there's not a great deal of places to fuel save around here either. So one of the tactics the drivers will have to take a pit stop throughout the race, and I mean, this is going to... Well, I mean, normally a bit of tactics comes into play, but if any of them can potentially save any fuel, I think that could make just enough difference to get the job done here in Norway. As you mentioned, your Marnie, top of Masters, Hoagie. Well, I said about him earlier, struggling in qualifying. He was well down. Look at that, just pops himself up into 3rd place. So right now, the top 3 positions are occupied by different classes. Green from Spec 1, Marnie from Masters, and Hoagie from Spec 2. And well, actually, let's while I think about it as well, we've just got a bit of calmness here in proceedings. Let's have a bit of a mention to a brand new sponsor for this league, Precision Driving Analytics. Ray Phillips, who is their owner, has over 30 years of motorsport experience and raced in open-wheel cars for almost 20 years of that time. He has now found a passion in helping others go faster and perfect their craft. He can fill the role of data and race engineer, and also as a driver coach, while helping drivers to get the most out of data and video systems. Ray was the data engineer and driver coach for the 2019 championship winning Ferrari Challenge team, assisting multiple drivers on the team. PDA also sells a wide variety of data and video equipment that can help everyone from high-performance driver education to professional drivers and even a race team with multiple cars and drivers. No matter what you choose, customers get the information they need to go faster and have a great time on track. PDA can help real-world racers, sim racers, and also HPDE, or high performance driver education to give its longer word, go faster while staying within their limits. Give them a shout and see what they're all about. It's precision data analysis and see what they can do for you. You can find out more about them by heading across to precisiondrivinganalytics.com. Oh well, that's just nicely timed for 1 minute left in qualifying, and it's not me within this series. Just tends to, well, I say just mellow out a bit as your money just pops purple sector in sector 3 there.
Yeah, lovely stuff to see the purple sector still coming in as well. And it's interesting you mentioned that about PDA, because it's just awesome to see that skills like that and experience like that can now just be not just transferred into real world application, but also in the sim as well. You know, the sims are that accurate now that it does take the same sort of experience and knowledge to set cars up to help drivers get quicker and give them the sort of tutoring that they need, or just help develop not just the driver but the car as well. As we look here at Roland Wallbank across the line, he's just done a 1:28.3. His best times are 1:27.85, so no improvement this time round for him. It's great to see these cars, though, make their way around here, because they really do not display much body language at all. If you're looking at something like a Porsche Cup car, a GT3 car, or even the the GR86 here on iRacing, you see the car wobble around and lean into corners and move. These Formula Fords are so stiff and so straightforward that they just sort of skip across the circuit. They're like a water boatman. They just float around on the surface and just change direction without any big drama. And it's just great to watch them because of that. There's so much intrigue in what is the car going to do next. You can't see how it's behaving on the way into the corner. And like we were talking about before, around a circuit as undulating as this, it's going to be an exciting prospect for tonight.
You talk about drama, Anderson Hoagie there, just cheekily slotting one in right at the depth to go up into second and drawing green provisionally at the moment on the front row. And within a tenth, 800ths of a second to be precise. It's so frighteningly close. You can't even comprehend just what it is. I mean, a blink of an eye is around about 0.3 of a second. It's just getting on the slightly, just ever so slightly more, maybe just carrying into one of the corners an extra mile or two an hour. That's all it is. It's absolutely crazy. We could have such finite differences between so many of the drivers, so many of the positions. You've got 3 or 4 positions that are separated by a tenth up and down through the field.
Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it, how close it is. I've become very invested in the Trackmania competitive scene recently as well, and if I'm honest with you, they're fighting for thousands, and people put 100 hours at a time in just to shave 100th of a second off. It's absolutely terrifying, and this is the same sort of thing. All it takes is one little input a tiny bit earlier. Even if one of those inputs is 1,000th of a second earlier or later, it can completely affect where the car is and where it turns in and where it ends up and reacts with the surface. It is such a finite difference, a minute difference, I should say, between some of the laps that we're seeing out here in qualifying. And in cars like this, it really does matter as well, because the slipstreaming is important, as you mentioned before, Tim, but there is not as many places here to save fuel in that regard, but you can still, of course, benefit from the track position. It's going to be hard to follow, though, through that first couple of corners, I reckon, especially once they go back up the hill. I'm intrigued to see what the drivers make of that there, because they're going to need a lot of patience on display.
Oh, especially with those cold tyres. We're qualifying. It looks like we are officially done and dusted. I mean, as we transition across into the race session now, and drivers take to the grid, we can take you through exactly how they're going to line up. And on pole position, it's Jason Green. Anderson Hogan, the Canadian, joins him on the front row. Row 2 sees Jorg Marnie and Simon Mayer alongside one another. With row 3 having a North American vibe, it's Arabian and Overstreet. Row 4 sees Montgomery and Degacias alongside one another. Round out the top 10 in row 5, it's Antonio Rice and Richard Coffey. Row 6 sees Renders alongside Genet. On row 7, it's Pinino and Warbank with Mike Bennett. He's got Andrew Love alongside him. Another Canadian-American roller we've got a bit further up. Series organizer Stevie Ray. He's got Jim Brewster for company on row 9, and the top 20 being rounded out by Adam Bradshaw and Jeff Jacobson to complete row 10. Tom Laurie and Gary Walbolt are on row 11, with row 12 being an all-Brazilian affair in Carvalho and Montavini, with the final row being Johan Botenga and Graham Brownlee. Let's wait for everyone to take to the track now and line up behind the Porsche 911 safety car. We get away for 40 minutes of racing. As mentioned, the drivers will have to take a pit stop during that time. Pit window is going to open anywhere from about 15 minutes into the race all the way up until around about the 35th minute, depending on how much they do manage to fuel save. And how much, well, or equally as well. You talk about those track positions, Chaz. Whether they even elect to maybe go for the undercut, we have seen that work a few times this season, both in the Formula Ford Series and the SRF Series. And that would have been a bit of a challenge to pass around Rudskogen. That might actually be a viable option for some of our drivers.
Yeah, definitely. You know, track position is important, and having the slipstream is great. But at the same time, if you're not going to be able to save much fuel by doing it, you're going to be backing out very early into a lot of corners to make sure you don't hit the car ahead of you. So I think there's going to be a bunch of people we see tonight going for that undercut. I'm intrigued by a rolling start for Formula Fords, because normally this is a sort of car that you would have a standing start for. It's almost the sort of standard format for these cars all across the world. But it's interesting to see that they've gone for the rolling start option instead. It's maybe a bit safer, I suppose. It's there's a big spread of talent in the field.
There is that, and also leaning out towards, obviously, Ray Esports being an American-based series. They love their rolling starts over there.
They do.
My American friends call our standing starts practically communist in comparison, but that's their it's a perennial Britain versus American banter, bless them. But no, and also, as you'll see later on in the SRF series, a small grid. I'm genuinely a small grid that I'd be worried about is low 40s for them. Quite often they're mid to high 50s, even 60, even maxed out at 62, numerous times a season. So I think it just, like you say, just makes it that little bit safer for getting things running. And of course, that Ray Esports home of the unofficial SCCA as well, where of course, in real life, all about the rolling starts there too. So it just it keeps in with the family and the vibe of consistency too, especially with so many of our American friends and counterparts racing in these series.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I think it's going to be a real interesting one to see who plucks this out of the bag and who's maybe a little bit daring, a little bit willing to have a go here.
The face on the front of Jason Green's car is terrifying me. I really don't like it. But it's interesting to see just how many there are actually out there, because 26 doesn't sound like a humongous grid, but I'd say it's just about the right size. I always say that, you know, especially in sim racing, your ideal grid size is over 20 and under 30. You know, I like a grid that's big, but not too big, you know, where it's manageable for not just us on the broadcast to keep an eye on things, but also for series organisers and for drivers to enjoy themselves as well, you know, where it's not overcrowded and it's not oversubscribed. So it's not chaos if something happens and, you know, half of the field isn't still coming out of the last corner by the time that most of it's into turn one. Obviously, track dependent. But right now, though, we've got a bunch of drivers from different classes right at the front of the field. That's going to be important for this race because they will want to sort of put to the back of their minds the pressure of leading their respective classes. So it's going to be interesting to see how that affects them. But round the final corner we go, Tim. It's time to get underway.
Here we go. Let's get ready to go racing from Norway at Rudskogen as we are green and we are go. And Jason Green catches the rest of the field napping now. We're really pulling out 3 tenths as we head down towards turn 1. But it's all about that battle for second as Jogmani's going to slip and slide his way through there past Hoagie. Get himself up into second. A few drivers as well down from the midfield, just swapping around. Terran Rice, he's had a good start. He's up a couple of places into 7th in the 914 machine. But it's like NASCAR style, like the animals coming onto Noah's Ark as we head down towards turn 3, side by side, so many of them. And amazingly, I think we've got away cleanly, Chaz. Everyone is all, well, there you go. There's the commentator's curse. Yep. Spoke too soon.
Michael G. Nelson and Leandro Pinheiro have gone around, and only a little bit of contact involved with the two of them. And as Yuanchi Lin has said in the chat as well, Jason Green definitely taking the green. He certainly used his namesake advantage and ran with it. Fantastic start by Jason. Jurgmani going up into second place, also doing well. And Mike Bennett's had a good start as well after that incident. He's gained 3 places since the beginning of the race. This is Steve Ray, championship organiser, right in the middle of the pack. Just behind him, he's got Jim Brewster having a look down the inside, but he compromises himself slightly and has Adam Bradshaw in the Masters class also having a look. I think Graham Brownlee has just dropped another 2 places as Pinheiro and Michael Jean Nelson make their way back through. But inside the top 10 here, it's still all line astern. Jason Green leads at the end of lap 1 though.
As they come across line. Marnie, I'd say, he's closed that gap up. He's practically cut it in half and almost having a bit of a look here up into turn 1. Thinks twice about it, dips back in behind Green and settles in, although absolutely everyone coming along for the ride. The biggest gap we've got right now is around about 9 tenths of a second. That's Mike Bennett behind Richard Coffey for 11th right now. However, everyone else behind them, it's one long train from first all the way down to 23rd. Well, someone runs in a bit deep. I think that's, it's Jurgmani, and that's Overstreet. Well, target fixation, and around she goes.
You could just rearrange the letters of his name and call it Megan Oversteer, to be fair. Sorry, her name, apologies. Megan Oversteer having a big old moment there down at the bottom. That corner is actually called Anxiety, apparently, at the bottom of the hill. And to be honest, in a car like this, it really does give you anxiety when you get down there, because it is such a nightmare to get right. When you're on the brakes, you're turning in, you've suddenly got the compression of the car as well. It's a real pain in the backside. Unfortunately, Megan there just coming a bit unstuck, but carries on. The wall is very far away down there, so it's hard to hit it. This is Jurgmani and Addison Hoagie. Addison had a slowdown penalty, actually, at the start of the lap, which I think is what sort of put Megan offline slightly, because Megan was having to run around the outside to get past Addison. It didn't quite work out, as you saw, but look how close these cars can follow each other. No massive aero on these machines, which means they are so good for racing, because they can follow each other dead closely. And just behind them as well, a few places back, I think it's Chris Montgomery and Thomas Renders that are glued to each other. They've got Alan Degassis just behind them, as Jurg later on the brakes, but confident to throw the car in. There is the move from Renders on Montgomery. And then they've got the 04 machine. It is Alan Degassis just behind them. You can see a little bit wide on the exit there was Thomas Renders, but now he's the one giving the slipstream away to him.
It's going to be like this all race long, isn't it? It's just setting up the vibe. We're only 3 minutes out of the 40. Not even 1/10 race distance here from Rudskogen already. They're absolutely not giving this one up, like dogs with bones, wrestling away for every position and every inch of track available to them. But so it's, as you mentioned, there's a bit of a slow up from Hoagie, obviously due to that slowdown, and Marnie's half spin. That's sort of created a bit of a gap right now between Maya and Arabian, just starting to drift out of slipstream range, which certainly sounds daft in these cars with so little downforce. But Arabian just 1.2 seconds behind our top 2 of Maya and Green, and we need to be careful. It's all about how you bring the tyres in these cars. Of course, they're rock solid. They're designed to last, well, pretty much the whole season long, give or take, depending on what your budget is in real life. But it takes a lot to get them up to temperature, these cars, with, of course, having such a hard and robust tyre compound.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all a learning curve when you go into a different kettle of fish like this. And obviously one of the key things in sim racing is that drivers have to jump from one car to the next unless you are devoted to just one machine. A lot of these drivers will be, but a lot of them will also drive other cars as well. You get your money's worth out of iRacing and you drive all the different machines that are on offer. We've got 3 of the Spec 1 drivers leading the way at the moment: Green, Maya and Arabian. And then we've got Marnie, Hoagie and Rice just behind in their own sort of little pack. And actually, to be fair, this is Addison Hoagie now looking back down the inside of Jörg Marnie. The Swiss driver running way wide around the outside. Addison goes through. Jörg tries to pick up a bit of, well, something out of the back end of Addison's car. It was very close between the two of them, though, and there was nearly contact. But luckily, with sort of how high up the gearbox is in this car and the crash structure at the back, and how low the nose is, they don't actually make contact that's that sort of detrimental to their race when they do get together. So they can often get away with it, as now Addison Hoagie instantly sets his sights on Ferenc Arabian just in front, the Canadian driver, his countryman in fact. The two of them now battling for the final podium spot, but Addison clearly not scared to throw away the potential of a class victory here in the Spec 2s, but going very well.
He's going incredibly strongly right now. Clearly driving a bit of a bit. Oh, I think we've had a bit of an issue. Yeah, you can see. Oh, there's Bradshaw. There's Montgomery around too, as they drop right through the order. Oh, something big's happened there. I think even Degassias involved as well, potentially. But, well, here comes Hoagie. You said about it for the move down into turn 1. He's up into 3rd overall right now. And job done for Addison Hoagie. Really driving with a bit between his teeth, obviously, after that slowdown. Although, is he not? He's not.
No.
I was a bit worried he incurred another one, especially when you said, and I thought, maybe chances seeing the same as me.
I was intrigued there by the fact that he tucked the car right to the inside as soon as he possibly could when he came out of turn 2 to make sure that if Ferenc Arabian was going to get into the slipstream and follow him down there, that he was out of the way, and he had to at least compromise his pace a little bit to get into the slipstream in the first place, because Addison knows just what the slipstream's like in these cars. He's made 2 overtakes using it to his advantage by now, so he's certainly wise to it. Right now, though, he wants to go chasing after Simon Mayer in 2nd position, the German driver. But there's a hell of a train developing here of these 5 cars: Hoagie, Arabian, Marnie, Rice and Renders, and they've got about 3 seconds back to Richard Coffey, so they can still battle amongst themselves for a bit and not lose too much time, because as we've seen, the slipstream is so important between these cars. Here's Carvalho, Pedro Carvalho, looking down the inside of Jeff Jacobson. The two of them glued to each other right now for 15th and 16th position. Pedro's got his countryman Leandro Pinheiro behind him, and Pinheiro is actually recovering from his earlier issue. Alan Degassis is doing the same as well, down in 18th spot, and it was Chris Montgomery, wasn't it, that went around just on the previous lap that we unfortunately had to, well, we missed the initial incident, but it seemed like it wasn't too much to upset them for the remainder of the race anyway.
Well,
and
I
here we
think
go. There we go.
You asked for it, you get it. John Robinson right on the ball.
It was Degassis.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I've unforced. Oh no! So there goes Montgomery in front of him. That just drops it on the exit curb, and then Degassi as well. Star points are plenty for flicking the car back around in the correct direction. I'll definitely give him that one.
Yeah, he did a good job there, Degassis, but it was just one of those things where he knew that, obviously he could see in front of him that Chris was going to be a little bit too hot into the corner and had to back out of it. But it's so hard, mid-corner in a car like this, to carry the speed in and then have to slam on the brakes and check it up, and it's so easy to spin the car around. So I think Degassis tried to do what he could, but then just, couldn't unfortunately get it stopped in a controlled manner anyway, without hitting Montgomery. But the cars are tough. They've not got wings to damage and aero to affect, so it's very minimal in terms of the body. But look at Carvalho there, closing up behind Jeff Jacobson. Really gets close to the gearbox of that car, under braking, but doesn't make anything of it this time round. It reminds me of a sort of old Jordan livery, does the number 36 machine right now, which I'm fed up of looking at this week, if you ask me. Those that know will know. But Jeff Jacobson, he's going to be fed up of looking at it in his mirrors anytime soon, isn't he, Tim?
He is indeed. He is indeed. But likewise, lurking in the background then, Pinarino, just waiting for the opportunity of those drivers to have their own bit of an issue, get slow out the corner. Oddly though, I tell you what, Arabian really struggling for race pace here. Ran well in qualified 5th. He's climbed one place up into 4th. Well, he even got into 3rd at one stage, and Addison Hoagie just reeled him in like it was a mackerel on the end of a fisherman's line. Just absolutely reined him in with quick and relative ease. And now it's Jörg Marnie doing exactly the same thing, and just I'm not too sure what's even causing it, because it's too early in the race for it to be tyre issues. There's no apparent damage, and he hasn't even got in any instance as for Arabian. So he's just clearly struggling with current situation right now. Just having a little look at it. Track temperatures say 34 degrees Celsius, so not overly hot particularly. Definitely on the warmer side of toasty, but it's definitely going a lot higher in iRacing. I've seen it before. I saw it last night, in fact, on the Formula Renault 3.5 series as well. This is an
no.
I was just about to cue it up as an epic battle. And Overstreet gets turned there. I believe there was contact, and well, it's just not her night whatsoever. Back down to 20th, having started 6th, and those 2 incidents is what's cost her dearly. Mike Bennett into the pits. That's an early stop, but it will get him home to the end of the race.
Well, it was him that turned Megan around, so I think he had no option other than to run wide and go into the pits, because it might have given him damage, to be fair. But he was just a little bit impatient going towards the apex of the corner, I think, and that was it. Turning around, and Addison Hoagie's already up into 2nd place while this has been going on. We've got to remember, though, Tim, that it was Jörg Marni and Addison Hoagie that were 2 of the quickest qualifiers out there. So with the slowdown penalty for Addison and the off for Jörg Marni, the only reason they're getting back up there is just pure pace at this moment in time. They showed it in qualifying, and they're carrying it on into the race.
It is frightening the way in which Hoagie is just completely caught up with the back of them. I mean, let's not forget the deficit between Maya and Arabian when they were obviously second. Oh, that's Carvalho around and, well, retired to the pits by the looks of things. Not the evening the Brazilian was definitely hoping for, but I mean, the gap had nearly got out to pretty much 2 seconds between Hoagie and Arabian. And the fact that, between Maya and Arabian, the fact that Hoagie's managed to obviously catch up with Arabian, pass him, and then reel in Maya, and is now going after Jason Green with relative success. It's an absolute epic performance from the Canadian here in Norway. Stevie Ray into the pits there, but I mean, whereas Hoagie relatively easily and quickly dispatched of Arabian, Marni just seems to be struggling a little bit at this stage of the race.
Yeah, just not able to find the opportunities to get through, I think. I mean, the pace is all right. It's just that can't quite make the grounds forward or make the sort of moves and lunges at this point. He's able to sort of sit there and follow this pace and keep on a very good pace at least, but it's just not working at this moment in time. Ferenc is doing everything right, and to be honest, the pressure behind Marni from Antonio Rice in the Masters category is certainly making a difference as well, I'd say. Here's Leandro Pinheiro, still having a go at a car ahead of him, which is Adam Bradshaw at this moment in time. Adam's gained 8 places from where he started, so he's having a good old run, not quite into the top 10 yet, but he's doing everything right from where we're sat, and he carries on in that 929 machine. Another one of the drivers in the Masters category, which is highlighted by the yellow position markers on the left-hand side. The greens are Spec 2s, which is basically like the AM class, let's say, and reds are Spec 1s, which is the pros, and Pinheiro sends one up the inside, and admittedly, I mean, it was coming for a while there, and Adam, well, he certainly showed intentions of turning in, regardless of what Leandro Pinheiro was doing, and it was quite the barge down the inside there, to be honest with you, but good to see that they can still get away with it.
For now, I mean, it always amazes me with drivers when they get so close, when they get away with it, and then go back for a second bite of the cherry. And, well, they'll get away with it for now, but how much longer it will last will remain to be seen as we reach, nearly 14 minutes through the race. About third race distance here from Norway. Green leads from Hoagie in second, who's leading currently in Spec 1. Maya Arabian in fourth. And then it's Jörg Marni, Antonio Rice, who's the first and second in the Masters category. Thomas Renders is 7th overall, with second and third in Spec 2, 8th and 9th respectively for Coffey and Wallbank. Andrew Love running out the top 10, and third, currently in the last podium place in the Masters category. Still, well, plenty more to change, plenty to go. Stevie Ray is currently the highest driver of the drivers that have pitted so far. He's going all the way down in 19th, and, well, amazingly as well, only 2 places below where he managed to qualify, which was in 17th. So he's on for a bit of a strong result here today, as he's not too far behind. I mean, he's 31 seconds. I say not too far behind, but once you account for the pit stops, because everyone above him has yet to stop, it's not a bad place to be right now.
Not at all. Neither's this as well. Jason Green under pressure from Addison Hoagie. Addison's been an absolute star throughout this race and continues to be. And is really, really pushing on at this moment in time. The gap is going to come down now as they go in the slipstream down the hill towards Anxiety at turn 3 at the bottom of the hill. And look, Green defending the inside line. He doesn't really have to do that at this point. Addison tries to get the cutback. You can see the stab on the brakes there to make sure that the car does not make any contact with the back of the car in front. It's great respect, but the two of them are now starting to break away from Mayer a little bit as they head up the hill. It's important sections of the circuit like this where you do follow one another. Make sure that you don't trip over each other, as Addison's found a gap down the inside, actually. Lovely move. Really well done, but the circuit goes back in the other direction now, which is going to give Green the inside line as they go back down the hill. Green's still going to be on the inside line into the hairpin, but what can Addison Hoagie do around the outside? Carries quite a decent amount of pace through there. You've got two left-handers coming up now as well, so this is then going to go back into the favour of Addison Hoagie. And Addison is surely going to get it done, just needs to be nice and smooth, careful on the brakes on that tighter line. And we have a new race leader for the first time in this race, and it's number 69, Addison Hoagie from Canada. And what a fantastic comeback this has been from the slowdown in the opening moments of the race. Great job.
We do love a recovery drive, and that's not really been one better this evening, what Hoagie's displayed. Look down and out. A lot of people would have just maintained where they were, given up and maybe a little bit. Not Hoagie. Grabbed the situation by the scruff of the neck, did something with it, and reeled in Arabian, then Mayer, and then Green, and took control on minute 16, lap 12 of this race. He now leads, and well, what can he do from there? And also, I think another part of this is he's clearly not fuel saving. I think we all can safely agree on that one. But has Green and Mayer, have they been fuel saving? What is the pit strategy element that's going to play into this? This is by no stretch of the imagination done and dusted. Hoagie's just got to go hell for leather realistically for the next few laps and just open up that gap as much as possible. It's currently already out to 7 attempts. He's absolutely flying. Meanwhile, further down the field, it's this battle for fourth. Arabian, Marnie, race all on one top of them. In fact, the latter two batting out for the lead in class right now, and I mean, Marnie's got to be disappointed. That earlier half spin it's just completely and utterly cost him dearly, and he's not really been able to recover from it since.
No, he's not been able to come back properly. Like I said before, you know, he's keeping the decent pace going, but he's just not able to make moves and move further up the order and make more of a race of it. So I'm not sure whether he is trying to fuel save what he can in the slipstream there, because that's the thing. I don't think Green and Mayer would have had chance to fuel save that much at the moment, because so much of this circuit is on the throttle because of the hills and everything you've got. You do have the tiny opportunity coming down into Anxiety, but you don't want to unload this car too much and have loads of lift-off oversteer. You don't want to also
just like that from Arabian.
Oh, yeah. Arabian goes around very, very quickly. No, that was... Pinheiro's gone into the pits. Apologies. And I saw that car going down the timing screen, but you're right. It's for Enzo Arabian. And it's just so easy to do it. That's the thing. I said before, these cars, they're not scale electric-like, where they're glued to the road all the time. But when they go, it's very hard to catch them. You know, you can slide them occasionally to a limit, but once it goes past a point of no return, it's very, very difficult to stop it going around completely.
Gutting for Arabian, who's now down into 7th place, and all that hard work for him massively undone. I mean, he's had a cracking start, to be fair, picked his way through the field and got himself up positions. Just on board with Antonio Race right now. He's up 4 places into 5th, obviously picking up that extra 1 from Arabian, who had his bit of a moment down at turn 1, straight turn 2. Wow, that's Marnie right ahead of us. This is your battle for the lead in Spec 1, 4th overall, and these two, I tell you what, masters by name and masters by nature. I say that as Marnie just runs in deep, but going for almost like the double apex there, just trying to round the corner off, straighten up and get on the throttle as soon as possible. Different tactics from these two drivers, bar at the slipstream. They've just evenly matched on pace. Last time around, only 0.02 of a second separated them in terms of lap time.
Yeah, Reese has got the easier job here to just follow at the moment. You could hear him lifting there behind Jörg Marnie, and he doesn't want to push past him at this point. I think he is going to be the one that's fuel saving. He's got that same sort of face on the front of the car that was visible on, I believe it was Jason Green's car as well. I think all of them in team,
it is,
the same team actually. Jörg Marnie has got the same, hasn't he? It's the same livery, just different coloured car. I've only just realised, and I don't know why it's taken me that long, but still.
Do you know what? You say that, Chaz. I've done well, we joined in a little bit late to the party here at Apex Racing TV. I think it's round 3 we joined in. So we're round, what, 8, I think, now? So for the last 5 rounds, I've not spotted that until you've just said about that. So it eluded to me as well. You're not alone on that.
That's all right then. I'm too much of a sucker for a livery. I love details within liveries, and I tend to usually notice, but clearly not tonight. So we still have these two battling together, though they might actually be in communication with each other, whether that be on Discord, TeamSpeak, or any other sort of voice chat platform. Teammates usually do sit and chat away with each other during the races. You get that odd guy that takes it too seriously sometimes and doesn't like to talk. Here's Alan Degassis down the inside. He's leaving his talking to the racetrack there as he goes down the inside of Adam Bradshaw. Bradshaw's still got an overlap, though. They need to be careful of contact back up the hill. It's easy to forget sometimes how open wheel these cars are, because there is literally barely any bodywork on these cars. And Degassis now back down the inside through the quick left. Then they're going to go round to the right, though, and he needs to be careful not to tuck it into the side pod of Bradshaw, as Bradshaw says, nope, stuff that, I'm going into the pits. And through down the inside goes Ulysses Mantovani. Says, thanks very much then. If you two are going to scrap and choose your own fates, I'm just going to dive down the inside when you're not waiting, or you're not watching, I should say, and I'll take that place. So great stuff by Mantovani there. Great opportunism, but now Degassis says, oh great, I've got to overtake another one now.
And it begins all again, doesn't it? All of that hard work, manoeuvring them around, trying to position them to get them where you want, thinking corners and corners ahead to get the move done. Degassis has to do it all over again, but, well, you don't get anywhere without doing it, and the American knows that full well. But getting himself up in 12th. I mean, Mantovani, he's... Yes, I know pit stops to play the part of it, but he's up an incredible 12 places so far into 12th. There's a bit of a moment, look like there from Degassis, and a little bit of a switch. However, Mantovani, you know, he's on form. Degassis has obviously had that issue earlier on where he had that collision with Montgomery, span around, and Mantovani's just been on the up, making moves. So maybe a little bit more of the confidence and the momentum with Mantovani right now. However, I'm sure we'll find out down the start-finish straight. I'll have to eat my words, and Degassis will probably get past him.
Well, Mantovani started in 24th place as well, so he's been right from the back of the grid all the way up into 12th. He's overtaken over half of the field, well, just under half the field, I should say. At the moment, Andrew Love comes into the pits. Degassis has just got past Mantovani, but I don't even think that was down the straight, and that's because Mantovani is coming into the pits. So Degassis goes up, so does Brewster, Buitenga. A lot of them will now move up the order on the left-hand side, as you will see. But right now, the closest battle inside the top 10 is actually Jörg Marni and Antonio Rees. Those two are still stuck together for the lead of the Masters class. I believe it is. Anyway, I don't know if I've got my classes the wrong way around. But we have these two still battling it out. But I say battling, I don't think they're pushing each other that hard at this moment in time, Tim. I think they're just following on from one another, aren't they, and doing what they can.
It's all about... Antonio Rees, I think, is just full fuel save mode for him and try and get the move done over Marni in the pits. Not too far away from finding out. We'll definitely know within the next, I'd say, about 10 to 12 minutes roughly. And then we'll know who is going to come out on top in the battle for Masters. And however, in fact, they managed to climb even more places. Is the stress of running in deep and fuel saving from Rice definitely going to be the way forward? And can he leap some of his competitors in front of him? You say closing in on Simon Mayer, who seems to be struggling a little bit for paces at this stage in the race.
Yeah, well, they were 9/10 of a second quicker than him on that last lap, and Simon Mayer seems to be a part of this let's put a horrible face on the front of the car team as well. He's actually in the sort of neon green version of the machine, despite the fact that Jason Green's obviously in the white and green version of it, further up the order. But yeah, Mayer has really dropped off the pace on that last lap. He was a second slower than Green.
Sectors 2 and 3 is where he lost all the time, Chaz. He lost pretty much a 10th in Sector 2, and then he lost 2 or 3, well, more like 4 tenths, in fact, 2 of them in Sector 3. So that's where it's all happening. Actually, probably 6 tenths in Sector 3. I was looking at Jörg Marni's line there. So, yeah, 3 tenths in Sector 2, 4 tenths... Sorry, 6 tenths even in Sector 3, so that's where all the time is just evaporated from for Mayer. So there is Buitenga from Spec 2 into the pits. Likewise, who else is in there? Ronan Wallbank, Jim Brewster too, just heading out of pit lane. Porsche 911 safety car doing a brilliant job of sitting there, waiting patiently for essentially nothing in road racing. And they're going to come out. So, of all the drivers that have pitted so far, Leandro Pinheiro in 12th place is your leader, shall we say, of that little battle. And he's definitely going to move up a fair few places. However, I'm just looking at pit stop times. I'm wondering if he may have fueled the car a little bit short, Chaz, compared to everyone else around him. He stopped on lap 12, stationary for 11 seconds, whereas everyone else was, what, 17 to 21 seconds, roughly, to take a bit of an average, and they stopped 4 laps later. Has he got enough fuel on board to see him half home, or is everyone else over-fueled? That's the big question.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how much fuel saving he would have been able to get done, because that's about half of what everyone else has put in. And to be fair, it's the same for Michael G. Nelson as well. He's put 9 seconds worth in, so he's really not
I
saved
think that
much
might
at
have been
all,
a fast repair, Chaz, because he stopped on lap 1.
Oh, he did, yes. My bad.
That's all right. We should make about right in terms of stationary time in these cars. So
I was just about to say the other car that stopped on lap 1 has just had an incident and jumped back to the pits, which is Graham Brownlee, unfortunately. He's had a bit of a drama out there on the circuit near the start of the lap as well, I believe, and has now jumped back into the pits. So his race not going well at all at this point. But this is Jim Brewster, who just came out of the pits alongside Ulysses Mantovani and has stayed in front now. Addison Hoagie and Antonio Rees in the pits.
I was just about to say, Chaz, sorry to cut across you, and then you'd picked it up yourself. Well spotted. Hoagie and Rees into the pits. So Hoagie in from the lead. Rees in from 4th overall and 5th overall and 2nd in class. It's hammer time now for Marnie to try and bridge that gap. But how much fuel saving has Rice done? Has he gone for a bit of an earlier strat to get that undercut with still a good chunky window for him to come out into and try and set some quali style laps? This is where the guessing games begin. 27 minutes completed. Our top 8 are yet, sorry, top 9 are yet to stop. Everyone else below them has. Who's going to come out first in terms of Hoagie and Rice? I think Rice has got out ahead of Hoagie. Yes, he has, and interestingly, so Rice was only stationary for 12 seconds. Hoagie stationary for, well, what seemed to be 19 seconds, and more like what everyone else has done, with the exception of Leandro Pinheiro. So have Rice and Pinheiro got this right, or have they still got fuel saving to do? I don't know. It's, as I said in the build-up, because it's a brand new car, we have no history around that. How much fuel saving you can get done around these tracks is a complete another discovery into the unknown. So we're only going to find out come the end of the race.
I think, to be fair, Rice has been able to save, definitely, but I wouldn't have thought it'd be that much. But then again, like you say, we'll have to find out and wait and see. We've still got Jason Green leading the way. He's carried on for another lap. Same with Simon Mayer, same with Jörg Marnie. And then Thomas Renders, pretty much everybody actually has gone through so far. The next car that would be pitting would be Richard Coffey right now. He's up 4 places from where he started. He's leading the Spec 2 class as of this moment in time. Megan Overstreet is the next car behind in 7th place overall. And there's still a few of them left to go. Chris Montgomery would be the only car. Yes, he's just come into the pits now, actually. So the rest of them ahead of Chris have all stayed out on the circuit. So the top 8 are all yet to pit.
It's kind of a bit fine, aren't they, as well? Just looking at the clock, 28 minutes. I mean, they've still got potentially, based on what we've seen so far this season, another 4, maybe 5 at an absolute push, depending on where they are in the lap, to be able to, you know, stay out. But it is starting to cut it a bit fine for those two. Talking of cutting it fine, it's this battle, well, the top of the 2 cars that are pitted so far as Hoagie moves to driver's right of Rees and gets them moved up before they've even reached the turn-in point into turn 3 and 4. And that is Hoagie up into 9th, 2nd in class. And wow, is this going to carry himself all the way to victory now? But what can Antonio Rice do? Can he stay in touch with him? Come along for the battle. Hoagie sitting the fastest Sector 1 of anyone so far on that lap, although that was largely due to the slipstream he picked up from Antonio Race right behind him. This is game on. This is a game on, and well, whereabouts are they in the lap? The cars ahead of them. So yeah, they've all stayed out again, Chaz, with the exceptions of Coffey and Overstreet.
yeah, still a bunch of them carrying on and just lingering on the circuit, you could say, as much as they can. Jörg Marni is right behind Simon Mayer still as well. He's going to be holding on. Alan de Gassis comes into the pits now from 8th position at this moment in time. Here is Simon Mayer and Jörg Marni. I think the two teammates right together as Simon has a bit of a wobble there. But again, look, a wobble in this car doesn't really mean that much. You can still save it and still not have it completely go around on you. There's a few cars out there that don't seem to have numbers on. I'm not sure if it's because of the type of livery that they have on them, because you can do a set file in iRacing that means that it doesn't show the number and you tell it that you've put your own one on, but a lot of people don't tend to. Either that or he's got his number in white on white number boards, which obviously doesn't help anybody. But still, that's just me getting picky about it, because I'm an absolute fanatic about number boards and I hate fluorescent yellow numbers on windows. Simon Mayer continues on, but look, Jörg Marni comes in and race leader Jason Green has also hopped into the pits now with just under 10 minutes to go.
So, keep an eye out for Addison Hoagie. Keep an eye out for Antonio Rice. Where are they? The two key battles, not only for the lead overall, but the lead in Masters. Arabian, he's into the pits. So it's only Mayer and Renders that have kept going. They are the only drivers yet to pit. They're running into deep, into overtime are those two. Well, there is Addison Hoagie. So he is, he's just about to come into the final complex to corners 13 and 14. They're quite slow and cumbersome and seem to last forever. Certainly 14 does. This never-ending corner that covers 270 degrees. There is Green. There is Marni just behind him. And where is de Gassias? He's coming across, Hoagie even. And Rice, they're coming across the line, but it's not going to be enough. But Hoagie is up to pace. He's got 1 second to make up to Marni. But crucially, it's that pit stop time that's what's cost him. Because if he had taken the same amount of fuel as, well, Green, Marni and Rice, then he would have come out comfortably in the lead.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's one of those things where we won't really know the difference in terms of what the drivers are planning or doing until they all form back up on the circuit again. But yeah, Addison Hoagie was pushing so hard early on. Maybe that's why he's had to take more fuel on board. I'm not sure. Whether they all run it dry and just fill up a certain amount, not sure. But still, Simon Mayer into the pits. Thomas Renders in there as well. And they just crawl their way down the pit lane. I'm one of these. I'm also a stickler for making sure that you stay in the fast lane of the pit lane, even though it's very easy to just drive along on the left-hand side. Simon Mayer there, not sticking to it completely, but still into the pits he goes. And they've got a Donington or Snetterton style pit lane there where it's very bumpy, where you park the car all the way up because the circuit does go up a hill. It sort of notches its way up the start-finish straight. Here's Jason Green. Round the final corner he goes. Simon Mayer has just got moving now after 13.4 seconds, which is longer than Jason. Jason's going to make his way into turn one. There on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see the cars making their way out. There is Jörg Marni, and he's actually under pressure now from Addison Hoagie into turn one. It forces him to go a little bit deep. Addison's going to get the run, and here out the pits comes Simon Mayer as well. So this three-way fight is going to ignite itself. Hopefully the two teammates don't hit each other. Addison Hoagie leading Spec 2, Jörg Marni leading the Masters, and Simon Mayer second in Spec 1 at the moment. And this is very nip and tuck down the hill towards Anxiety. That's Anxiety alone when you're on your own, but never mind 3 cars into there. They all manage to sort it out though, and Hoagie gets ahead of Mayer, but Jörg Marni stays ahead of the pair of them.
Great stuff from Marni, wasn't it? I mean, Hoagie gave it absolutely everything he got. Set the new fastest lap of the race last time around 126.58 for him. What can these drivers do? This plays right into the hands of Jason Green, though. 3.2 seconds, but make that 3.3 seconds. The advantage he has got. Marni, Hoagie and Mayer are now all over one another. They're scrambling, climbing, and desperate to fight this one out to pick up second overall. I think they know with some 6 minutes left on the clock here, the chance of the win is pretty much gone and done and dusted. It's who can claim that second step on the podium. 3 cars, 2 places on the podium up for grabs overall. Who's going to take it? Wow, not long to find out indeed as we look back from Marni and Addison Hoagie. Well, getting as close as you like there, Chaz, but Marni's just going to cover up this inside line. He'll give him the inside into turn 1, but turn 2 he won't have it. And just has to check up to prevent cutting the track there even. And he lives to fight another day, but the momentum heading down the hill is going to be with Hoagie. We've seen him make moves here before. Marnie knows it. He's just trying to squeeze him to the inside, but they're going to run out of room as they both twitch and oversteer and slip and slide down the hill. Marnie goes for the late apex. Well, I thought they were going to make a bit of contact there, but it's just the camera angle, luckily. And Simon Mayer is just sitting back and watching and enjoying the action. But while all this battling's gone on, Chaz, look, he's right behind him. It's Antonio Rice. He's come to join the party.
He has indeed. He's only 0.8 of a second behind Simon Mayer right now. But Addison Hoagie is throwing everything at Jörg Marnie, and Jörg's doing a great job to hold on to it. I bet he's not smiling like he is in his picture right now in the car, as there's a little bit of contact, the two of them hooked together, and Addison's just pushing a little bit too hard now. Needs to be careful at this moment in time not to overdo it. He's leading the class in Spec 2 as well. Doesn't need to throw that away because it's all about championship points. This isn't a one-off event. This isn't just bragging rights. You need to think about championship points right now, Addison. You need to just linger back a little bit. Probably should be happy to finish in third place because then we'll get one car from each class on the podium, but that matters not to these drivers. Simon Mayer has Antonio Rice behind. Rice will be all over this like a fly on a sandwich that's been left out on a hot day because Jörg Marnie, leading that Masters class, is definitely under threat, and not just from his classmates but also from overall drivers as well. Simon Mayer won't want to get involved in this though, will he, Tim? Because he's going to see this and think, nah, I don't want that fight.
No, I think he's just sitting back, waiting to pick up the pieces for when these two come together, which are the way that they're scrapping away at it, Marnie and Hoagie. It's when, not if, and well, dicing with death right around the outside is Hoagie. Gets the car checked up in time. Marnie's just defending that inside line. If he's seen any of the racing around here, Marnie, he'll know that is the strat to pull. Just defend the inside. And although it's slow, although it's cumbersome, it is near impossible for the driver to stick one right round the outside, round the long way, and he will pick up second. But he needs to be careful because Hoagie's growing in frustration. You can see he knows he's got the pace, but it's try and try. I mean, he's like the wolf, isn't he? Trying to blow down the three pigs' houses. He's blowing and blowing, but he still can't blow them down. It's like the house is made of bricks.
It really is, and Marnie has certainly made of bricks right now. I want to know what mortar he's using because it's the strongest I've seen in a while. He's done an absolutely awesome job at holding him off for now. We've not got long left of this race to go now, just under 3 minutes. Look at the understeer there from Addison Hoagie. I know these tyres last a while, but it is easy to overdo it on them. We know what the iRacing tyre model is like. You can overheat them by just blowing on them a bit too hard. And Mayer right behind now, still not making any big advances at this moment in time. As I said, just a lap ago, he's going to be happy to sit there and watch these two fight. Look at that, though, how much these cars can oversteer if you really pitch them in, you know. There's so much mechanical grip underneath them. They're so light, so nimble. They just float around. I described them as a water boatman before, and I'm pretty proud of it because I think it's a spot-on reference because they do just skip along the surface. They float through the corners. Addison Hoagie tries the undercut there. Or the cutback, I should say. I always say the undercut's a pit strategy and the cutback is a racing manoeuvre. There's never really a grey line between the two. But Addison Hoagie is just throwing everything at this right now. And I tell you what, Jörg Marnie, he's putting the car exactly where he needs. He's parking it on some of the apexes. He's really tightening his line because that's what this car allows you to do. Look at it. He's really, really parking it on the inside lines. This is great racing, but this is exactly what you can expect from Formula Fords. They're built for this sort of thing.
And all while this is going on, Green's built up a lead now of from, 3.2 seconds all the way up to 5.2. All this battle is just costing them so dearly, but they knew that when they came out of the pits, they were never going to catch Green, and Green just needs to bring this one home because when they cross the line, white flag is going to be in the air by my calculations, which is going to mean we've got 1 lap left to go from Rudskogen. 1 lap left for Jörg Marnie to hold on to that second place. And what can Addison do? He heads down to the inside, and surely this is going to be it. This dummy completely sold from Hogan. Do they make contact? Yes, they do, and they're around. Race just bashes Addison Hogan on the way through. And now all of a sudden it's Simon Mayer up into second, Antonio Race up into third overall, and also the lead in Masters.
There was 6 of one, half a dozen of the other there because Hoagie went in too deep and was not going to make the corner, but Jörg Marnie tried to come over a little bit early to sort of goad him into not going for it, and both plans backfired. But I think even if Jörg Marnie hadn't have sort of tried to say, go on then, I dare you, if he hadn't tried to turn in a little bit early, the contact still would have come.
Antonio Race has crashed and headed to the pits, so a complete flip on its head. Thomas Renders now 8 places is onto the podium.
What on earth? What on earth?
Well, I get this feeling this replay is about to tell us exactly what has happened.
Well, he had damage, didn't he? Because he went head-on into Addison Hoagie's stationary car. So he's just pulled it over. He's realised it's more than broken. He would have had a meatball flag for that. He race leader, though. He's about to win.
Yeah, it's all kicked off behind him. And, well, out of the final corner with the weave, across the line comes Jason Green. He takes the checker flag and the victory here from Rudskogen Motor Centre in Norway. Congratulations to him. Simon Mayer, in the end, picks up second. The strat of just sitting behind and waiting for it to kick off has worked. And then Thomas Renders. Well, he's had a quiet race. And he picks up 8 places and gets onto the podium. A great result for him. Marnie's still going to pick up the victory in Masters. And likewise, well, actually, in Spec 2, Hoagie into the pits. So that means it's Richard Coffey. He's going to pick up the victory in Spec 2. Wallbank and Montgomery. He had, of course, that incident early on. Now looks like he's going to pick up the podium in Spec 2. The last place on in the 3rd.
He is indeed.
13th overall, but even so, you've got to be there.
Oh, absolutely. In it to win it. And Steve Ray takes 2nd place in the Masters ahead of Andrew Love. Great job by both of those drivers. Steve actually gained 7 places in that race. Andrew gained 5 as well. Biggest mover in the field is actually going to be Johan Buitenga. The Dutch driver is going to have gained 11 places by the time this race finishes. There he is, actually, in car 664. Very well done indeed, wearing the traditional orange, which is the national colour of the Netherlands. And that is a really, really strong result for Johan. But well done to Jason Green. He's going to want to watch this one back just to know what went on behind him, because there was so much going on behind him that he wouldn't have seen. But I'm sure, as a driver, that's not a bad day at the office at all.
It's not. It's when you're hardly featured out in front. You know you've had a solid race and it's all come together nicely for you. Well, that's pretty much what it's been here today for Jason Green. And I'll be able to bring you up some classified results very shortly as everyone just coming into a halt out on the track. And definitely I think a few of those drivers can be running short on fuel. Here they are, confirmation. Jason Green takes the victory over Simon Mayer and Thomas Renders around that podium. Arabian 4th, it's Jorgmani in 5th and your winner in Masters. Overstreet and Pinero. Well, Overstreet, that's a cracking result. Back up to where she qualified, and seems that she had issue after issue. That's a great result for her. Really capitalising from other people's mistakes late on and contacts and drama. Pinero 7th, then it's top 2 in Spec 2. Richard Coffey winning in class, Roland Wallbank. 9th overall. Stevie Ray, you mentioned, Chaz, 2nd in Masters, ran out that top 10, and then Andrew Love just behind him. He's our last podium spot on 11th. Then it's Brewster. Buitenga, he is apologies, just having a bit of a look. Yes, he's 3rd in class, in fact. Bradshaw 14th. There's Jackson Montevini, Montgomery, Mark Genet in 18th, with Addison Hoagie in the end finishing 1 lap down in 19th. Likewise, 1 lap down was Antonio Race and Alan Degassi, took up to 21st. Then into retirements, Graham Brownlee, we lost him on lap 16. Carvalho on lap 8. Laurie on lap 6. Likewise for Mike Bennett and Gary Warbolt, we lost all the way back on lap 2. Let's have a bit of a chat to some of our drivers quickly. Congratulations to our race winner, Jason Green. Jason, Chaz said during commentary towards the end, you're going to need to watch this one back to work out just what happened. Were you surprised by the amount that you won here today, by?
Yeah, for sure. I saw that I was going to have a little bit of a gap after the pit stops, just based on how long Addison's took. But I definitely expected to have to battle towards the end, since they were both a little faster than me.
And, well, it seemed to come down to pit strategy quite a bit. And were you able to fuel safe much out in front, or was it just pretty much a race of just keep going as fast as you can and then fill up?
Oh yeah, for sure. When I was out in front at the start, I was pushing all out. Could not save at all. I actually used a lot more than I thought I was going to. But once Addison got past, I was able to save a little bit. But I don't think that made too much of a difference.
Well, Jason, congratulations. Win here today. And, well, we'll see you in a week's time. And good luck for then as well. And also later on in the SRF Weekend Warriors.
Yep, thanks.
Chaz, if you manage to grab for a chat.
We're going to have a word with the driver that managed to take the win in the Masters class. Jörg Marnie joins us in the chat. Jörg, you must be really pleased with that one, mate. Not quite the best ending with the contact with Addison, but it was a great battle up to that point, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, I had a lot of fun. I knew he was quicker than me on this track, and he attacked me actually from the beginning on every single corner. And yeah, the last lap on turn 1, it happens. I mean, I left him plenty of room, but he went straight, so he hit me, so that was it. But it was fun.
Well, that's it. It always looks like good fun in these cars, and of course, this is a very different circuit to what Formula Ford cars are usually used to racing around, though. How did you find it sort of adapting to a circuit like this? Because it's not an easy place to race around, is it?
Actually, very few words. I love the track. I love definitely the car. That's all the combination I need.
Well, it certainly looked like it went well for you, Jörg. Unfortunately, we're a bit short on time, so we're going to have to move on quickly. But thanks for joining us very briefly, and we will hopefully see you again very soon.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
As he's kindly joined us, we'll squeeze in the last one. Thomas Renders. Well, Thomas, no disrespect, I don't think you expected to finish on the podium here today. Those incidents late on really, really helped you. Were you surprised just how many places you managed to climb in? I mean, up 8, incredible results.
Yeah, I'm really happy with the progress I've made during the race. Of course, a little present in the end, so thanks for the involved. But yeah, I mean, I knew the only thing that could happen to be on the podium was something like this, and yeah, I was just incredibly lucky. And I'm just happy because last couple of weeks weren't so lucky for me. So yeah, just thrilled to be on the podium.
Definitely a bit of redemption, and well, congratulations. And well, you're racing later on in the SRF?
Yes, I will.
Fantastic. We will see you then. Good luck for that. There's Thomas Renders, who finished 3rd here today from Rudskogen. Well, that's all we've got time here for. Chaz, go on, give us 3 words to summarise what we've seen here today.
Typical Formula Fords. It was just great fun, wasn't it? Really good fun in the Formula Fords. It's my first time commentating on them. I've seen them in the real world quite a lot, and I know that these things, they float around, and like I say, they're pure racing machines. You know, there's no fancy aero trickery or any sort of push to pass or daft stuff. There's not much power underneath them, and it's just pure, raw mechanical grip. And this circuit really brought out the best of them. I've loved it.
Well, there we go. You know, you crammed in this 3 words, and then in true commentator styles, you could never shut us up, and then extended out to about 53 words. But no, absolute pleasure from myself, Tim Cox, Chaz Draycott, and John Robertson, who's been in the virtual production trailer, tucks away. Thanks very much for joining us. Stay tuned, because in about an hour and a half's time, we will have the SRF Weekend Warriors, the Ford Spec Racers. Make sure you join us for then. But for now, thanks very much, and we'll see you soon here at Apex Racing TV.